Didn't see me come up on live. Hello, hello, hello. Just waiting a second to let some people come in. So to those who are watching later, instead of having so much dead air time, I'll introduce myself, Corey Thorne, the spiritual healer, coming in to do an introduction to each and every one of my new cards in my new deck of oracles. And so every morning or whenever I can during the day, I try to get in and share the one card each and every day for 45 days. So every day you see me show up in here, not the same as when I'm doing readings for everybody, when I'm pulling cards. This is about sharing. This is about, not everything has to be picking and choosing people. This is about everybody being able to get the readings. So I did do a live the other night that was like an hour and a half. You will see me back again this weekend sometime doing another big live. I don't do those every day. I do spend a lot of hours working. So I teach every single night, Monday to Thursday, and then I teach some Tuesday mornings and Sundays. So I'm always busy, plus individual clients. So today I'm speaking for, I think, 7 hours of speaking along with this. So there's a reason why you don't see me in here doing mediumship or doing pulling cards for everyone that as often, because I have to do a lot of talking. So good morning, Tracy. Good morning. Welcome. So I'm just letting the room fill up a little bit here. Good morning, Linda. I am well, Linda. I am. Just bringing up on my phone. It took a long time for me to load in here, and now it's taking like forever for it to come on my phone. So there we go. We're in. Good morning, Jackie and Joy. Good morning. So this morning we are on card number 23 in the deck of my oracle cards. I should probably just, for anyone who's new, I like to give a full introduction. So if you can see on my back wall, you see a big pink photo. Well, that's the box cover to the Everyday Goddess Oracle cards. These are my deck of cards that I've been creating for a few years, along with the artist, Amelia Richard, who's a beautiful young artist who really, truly got my vision. She's seen my sketches. She just knew what to do. And these are channeled messages. So all these cards that you see are not something that I sat down and I just started to think, what do I want to put in a card? These cards would come randomly. I could be anywhere and this card would start to come to life. And so I would just sketch out what was being channeled through me of what each card should be. And then she channeled through exactly the color and bringing it to life and how she was seeing it. So there's much that goes into creating cards. It wasn't so easy as, oh, look, we just stamped this onto some paper and we're good to go. This is a lot of work. It takes a long time and there's a lot of love. I'm a healer. So I instill each and every card with the unconditional love and with the whole purpose that these are divinity. They are divinely connected, just like me. So people often say, often we see you in here and you're not using cards. You don't use cards. Well, I'm an oracle. So I have that connection to the divine. I can channel through messages without ever needing a deck of cards. These are things that I love to use to give people validation, to show people, to have a visual, something that you can truly be able to see. I would say our greatest gift is creativity and our ability to be able to create our own thought, to think for ourselves, to exist in your world, knowing that, that everyone has an opinion and a perspective. And I don't want these cards to be so that this is all it means and it means nothing more. What message does this card give to you today? You'll hear me speak of a message that it gives to me, but I'm still even writing the book of this card. Like, it's so crazy how many times, like, I have to put a few words on a page that I could write a whole book on this card. Well, actually, I just created a whole program around this one card. So this is the diamond effect to outgrowth effects, and this is Christiana. And Christiana is this beautiful essence that, this is her story, her life, And we spend a lifetime living in somebody else's story. We spend a lifetime trying to fit into somebody else's story. And I don't mean a stranger. I don't mean a stranger. I mean somebody else of us. So often people, when I speak these words, I sometimes assume people know exactly what I'm speaking of. But somebody else is not always like trying to be your mother or trying. Somebody else is also you when you're trying to be somebody else, when you're not allowing yourself to be your real, raw, authentic self. And that's a big, big part of how we get lost. Good morning, Lisa. And uh, Wanda and Doris, good morning. And Alicia and Kenzie, good morning. And that's how we get lost. We get so lost in creation, in what we think we should create ourselves to be, how we think we should be in the world. And this whole being creating the human to be the ideal, to perfect it, to be, there's so many things. And a big thing came up for me today, and it's a big part of what I'm teaching with my students in the level 4, because I'm teaching about perspectives and views and um, that everything we even read, most things don't have proof. And so we go by, oh, well, I read it, so it's proof. It's just like fact checking, right? It's like all the companies that start up their fact check, and it's their perspective, their view, and it's what they believe to be true. And so truth is as real as the truth that it lives for you. So you make somebody else's truth your truth. You create that truth. So truth is what you hold your conviction to and you hold true for you. And it just because it's truth for somebody else doesn't mean it's true for you. Right. And there's when you look at that and you explore it, it allows you to start to, you know, look in your own mirror to let go of every story. And I said, who would you be? I always ask my students, who would you be with no story? If you had no story of fear, if you had no story of the past, if you hadn't, who would you be without a story? And it stumps people. And the only word people come up with is free. I'd be free. Well, what is free? What would you be free from? And what do you think you're going to be free from? Right. And so it's the effects. And so does free mean that you're going to become a rebel? Does free mean you're going to say F you to the rest of the world? What does free mean? What is that sense of freedom? Right. When you think of free, it's going to be a truth to anyone who's lived entrapped or captured into something else, into someone else's existence their whole lives. So more than existing, my book, my program, all that stuff that says more than existing, was that I spent a lifetime just doing, just living. And that was a problem. And so when people would say, well, I don't think that's right. And I'm like, but it feels right to me. So a big one for me, and this is what came up this morning. I used to always believe, well, I guess I kind of still do now that I've got this theory broke through. I used to always say when I went to speak, I would always say my masculine side was on the right. And but nothing of anyone else's writings would link that to be true. So, but that's when my mouth would open, that's what would always come out. And I'm like, why do I say that? Why is that what I always get? Why do I say that? And so I used to question that and say, and so then I started to train myself. I trained myself to believe that it was on the left. Like we all have energy, right? We're made of energy. Why is it that it has to be on the left? Why is that such a strict structure? Because people wrote that out, but it's invisible. You cannot see it. It does not exist. It's an invisible energy. And because we're told it's on that side, well, it has to be on that side. Who says? When my mouth opens, so I'm like, when God speaks through me and it comes out as right, I started to change that message. And I would say, wait, no, I got that wrong. It's on the left. But it's the mirror reflection. So whatever you're reflecting into, so for me, it's always on the right. I see it on the right. Free from self-imposed limitations. Yes, right. Exactly, Lisa. And so when I looked at, and so when I started to really think about this more, I'm like, how many more things in my life did I change my truth? Because, you read somebody else's perspective or somebody else's view, and you changed your mind, not because you felt your mind was changed, but because you thought you had to. So, how many things in your life have you done because, oh, I have to, because that's what everybody else is doing? I have to, because that's apparently the way. I just couldn't work in the box. I didn't do well in the box. The beauty industry was truly about me having creative freedom. So when I would get staff members that were very strict into the box, and they have their little scale and they'd measure everything out, and they were like, well, you've got to have exactly this or the color doesn't work. And I'm like, well, I've been without exactly that. I've mixed without that and the color worked. Or you say, well, you can't mix this and you can't mix that. And I'm like, well, I mix this and I mix that and it works. So are you going to limit yourself to a story? Are you going to limit yourself to the limitations of somebody else? Are you going to limit yourself in the world because you're told the world is limited? And so when you start to believe everything that is perceived by somebody else to be a fear story to hold you captive, kind of where the world is right now, right? Is that we want to change. So there's this whole thing about changing humanity and changing the world into be what we need to be, because we're not going to have an existence. We're not going to have a world. But the world is existence is eternal. Existence is eternal. And that changes everything. And so when I start to really look at my own life and look at my book and all my writings and everything else, I'm like, well, I just always say I've always been here. I'll always be here one way or another. I'm always living. It's like, and so your choice is to choose to really get captured in your story. I always say, read my book and read it again and read it again and read it again. They're small for a reason, because the pages will never be the same, because your perception will change. And each time you go back, you'll be in a different energy. You'll be a different person. You're not going to be the same person. It's not meant to be a book to read once. I always say, take your highlighter and then you go back and you journal through some of this stuff of how does this resonate with my story? What kind of story have I been living based on this? Where have I been limiting my belief system? So the diamond effects to outgrowth is that once you can have that story change, once you change your story, once you don't have a story, once you let go. And so for me, my masculine energy feels like it's been very strong on my right side. So this is my truth, that I have been most of my life, very consumed in the sense of operating from my masculine energy. So my shadow, the masculine energy shadow, has always been over my feminine. So for me, that's where it was. I'm having to embrace more of the feminine energy, even though I look very feminine, I live very feminine, but there was such a strong power of everything that was in my masculine that was there. And so that's the ability to look beyond, to see the bigger picture, to not be afraid to look at your own story, your own reflection. That's what ownership and responsibility is. That's what I write in the book. When you take ownership and responsibility for your life, you're accountable for you. You start to take a really deep, good look at you, and you start to look at you. Is that real? Is this real? Am I real? Right? And so when you start to do that, you're starting to walk towards you. You're starting to not to live by the book. You're not, because the most powerful, and this is in, I think, You Can't Make This Shit Up book, and some of these books are not published yet. This is the only one we have published yet, but we have them all kind of in creation, in editing. They all have titles. They're all being done. I wrote a lot of books really quickly, and so I think it's in Magic and Miracles. In Magic and Miracles, I speak a lot about this. I speak about, that story that you live in. I speak about the truth that you tell yourself. And I speak about, when you stop lying to yourself, when you become honest with yourself, is that when you live in your truth, right? So this is true until you know another story. Tell somebody, change your story. So you live in imagination. You live in the creation. Reality that we create is imagination. So everything that we create so expectations, imagination. Obsession, imagination. All of those things, your expectations up on somebody is a reality that you created, a story that you created that somebody else has to come live in your imagination, live in what you want them to be, live in what you expect of the world, what you expect a job to look like, what you expect people to behave like, what you expect your children to grow up to be, what you expect them to be like. So you get them, and you have an expectation of what a family is going to be like. You have an expectation of what your children are going to be like. And then you start to have that. That's all perspective. So you start to live in this reality and you create that reality. And then you start to mold people. Well, that was also done to us. And so you're this old. So now you need to be like this. You're that old. You have to be like this. And I'm like, why? And so I used to always say, my mother used to say, who do you think you are? God? Do you think you're rock? Do you think you belong to Rocket Fellow? And I'm like, yes, yes, I do. Yes, I do. I believe that there's a possibility I could be. And it was like, and so I used to always tell her those things, not even thinking that a big part of that was the truth. Because when my mouth would open and that stuff would come out, we are all a light, right? We all embody light. And so our existence and our journey is so big and so large, but it's also so small. It's so simple, but it's our imagination. It's what we create from an experience that we make it so big. So if we can create such a fear story, if we can create such drama, and there's such an addiction to drama, there's such an addiction to life has to be more complicated, the complexity that we have to, keep living. So we say somebody hurt us. Well, that person hurt me. That person said this word about me. Well, the hurt story, they spoke about me. The hurt came when you created a story around what they said. So when somebody would come to me and say, so and so said that about you outside, and I'm like, well, why did you tell me? Why did you tell me? Why did you want to tell me that? You wanted to tell me that so that you could think like that's for your benefit somehow. No, it was for yours. And I said, well, if it was for my benefit, then it didn't give me any, it wasn't beneficial. It caused harm. So it caused, it kind of, now you're effing with my day. So what was your intention? Right. And we don't think like that. We think, and so because we limit our thought, we think, what a hurtful thing to say. And because it was a hurtful thing to say, I need to tell the person that hurtful thing was said. And instead of letting ourselves believe that maybe it was just a weak moment, maybe it was just an upset moment, instead we go to the other extreme of that and we start to create from our imagination, well, that person don't like that person's out to get that person, you're out to hurt them, you're out to you. And that all becomes a story. And then we create a massive story around that. We do that in our own mind. So we make ourselves our own enemy, right? So everything that we see happening in the world, you have to remember we create that and we live it in our own lives. We just do. And so once you start to change your story, once you start to live present, once you start to live in the existence of you, once you start to become more aware of you, well, that's the impact. Everything, the power of it all is right now. So the power in the book that I write in the Magic and Miracles is I write about the bookmark. I write about the bookmark in the book. So when you open up a book, let me see. I got a book. So you open up a book and you read the book, right? And you read the pages. So as you read, time passes and time goes and time goes and time goes. The last thing you do before you close the book, if you got a bookmark, is you take your bookmark and you do this. Or you close or you turn down a corner. Whatever it may be, that's your moment. So in this moment, this is your moment. What do I do in this moment? So when people want to preach the scriptures to me, I have a Bible that got all kinds of tabs. I got all kinds of Bibles here. But it's not the words in the book that matters. It's not the words that matter. It's what I'm going to do after I read all that and I'm sitting in contemplation. In the moment of contemplation, when you go to put this, whether it's a novel, whether it's your own journal, whether it's everything you just wrote about yourself, this is your moment to decide, what will I do with this moment? I can react and respond in a negative or in a positive. I can let the story come together. So everything over here you haven't read. Everything over here you've already read. You're right here. You're right here in this moment. But when you close the book, it all comes together. Now it's just a book. Now it's just a book. That's our whole life. That's your whole life. And that's how I've always seen life. I'm like, well, what does that matter? What does that matter? Why does that matter? Why are you still holding on to that? Right? Why are you taking my words? Why are you so offended by my words? Why is things right? Why is this stuff bothering us so much? Why are the things that we're doing, right? Why are the things that we're doing such a problem? Or why is what someone else is doing such a problem? You're living in their existence. You're living in their existence. And so the diamond effect is in that mirror when you look in your own mirror, when you live in your own moment, when you live in that moment of your own, when you live in your existence, when you're not living in somebody else's existence. The effects of that are shimmery. It's magical. That's where the magic is. And that is where the magic is in our lives. The magic is not in somebody else's life. The magic is not in the past. It is not in the tomorrow that does not exist. It's in the moments of today. Can you see the magic in today? Can you see the magical moments? No matter how bad it is. It's like I said, sorry. So last night, I'd opened my blind. I felt closed in for a moment. I'm like, so when I was teaching my level 3 students last night, we did some meditations of traveling into magic, traveling into what magic really means. Do you know what magic really means? Right? So you get that word. So people read my advertisements, they read Corey School of Magic, and they instantly shut down. No, I'm not going there. She's witchcraft. She's doing this. She's doing that. They create every story that now I'm a horrible, awful human being. And everything I do is devil's work. And so whose story is that? They want me to come into their first, they want to place it in there so they got somebody else to blame for the existence that they keep living in. The meaning of the words that somebody else has instilled in them. Magic is unconditional. Magic is endless possibilities, unlimited. Can you believe in the things that you cannot see that brings about beautiful change? Can you believe that there's something magical inside of you, that you're magical? And so when you start to change that, and so when I tell somebody, when I feel the need to kind of put that out to somebody, I'm like, well, it's just about you seeing you, that you're beautiful and wonderful and worthy, no matter what your past. This is the moment right here. I see right here. So when I work with people and I work with coaching, I don't care about all the filler stuff. I don't care what you've done. You don't have to make me like you. You don't have to justify your behaviors. It is, what do you want right now? What do you need right now? Because everything that matters is right here, right now. This is where you have the opportunity to start to make a change, to start to create a different life, to start to live a different life, to come back into you. To come back into you. So that book closing, that's everything is in there. But every time you open it, it will be different. How you read your words, how you perceive it, how you see it will be different, because you'll have experienced some other different things. So the story changes. Your connection to it changes. Your emotions are different. Your energy is different. So everything is different after the first time. So when you go in and read pages again, it's your bookmark. Where do you place your bookmark? So if you're someone, I feel like I got a few people in here that are in the middle of some changes in life. And I'm like, so where you are right in this moment, you have an opportunity. Where you are right now, you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity right here to sit in the peace, to sit in the awe, or to let thoughts such as, well, that's just stupid. That don't make sense. I don't understand her. Or, yeah, I see that in my life. Or you can just sit and just listen. And you can see the sparkles in those pictures. You can see the silver shimmery. You can see the little itty bitty little diamond. When you are able to sit with the existence of you in peace, in that sense of self, you see the little things. You see the little synchronicity moments. You see the little magic. You don't miss the dime on the floor. You don't miss the feather. And people say, well, what do they mean? I'm like, well, it means It could mean your loved ones are with you, but it could mean that you actually see you today, that you actually paused and you gave yourself the opportunity to see, the opportunity to see the awe, to see the beauty, to see the magic. And when you can see the magic in things, you start to see magic in your life, like little fairy rings of mushrooms on the grass. Is that a problem or is that magic? Right? So when people go to take that off the, oh my God, I got to get rid of those in the yard. They have to go. They're ruining my yard. You know, in the opportunity of the moment, not saying you need to keep them there, but in the moment, you can have a magical moment and you can imagine, I wonder what lives underneath those mushrooms. I wonder why they're there, right? Or you could go and kill it right away and squish it and get very upset that they're in your grass. Choose. You get a choice. Let it ruin your day or let there be magic and still do the things that you need to do to create, right? So finding that peace, finding that moment, living in that. So that's our card of the day. I don't have a lot of time again today. This week I am with clients all week. I'm going to be I'm working a little bit in March, and then I'm stepping away from personal one-on-one sessions for a few months. I know it's a big step, it's a big change, and I know when I say it out loud, I don't really have. I'm taking some time to finish up a bunch of projects and to do the work, and to really truly put my focus into all of this that I'm trying to create, and making some changes to. I'm going to be doing some spiritual group counseling, so so I'm going to be offering out some spiritual group counseling sessions and those type of things as well, where anyone can join into them, and they will be a smaller, quaint little group. And there's just some changes coming, because if you just stay exactly who you always have been, you're missing out on opportunities. So I'm expanding my business and the growth of the business. And yeah, and I hope this card today, the diamond effects to outgrowth effects. So if you take a moment of peace today and you sit in peace, or you see the positive instead of the negative, watch the effects of your day. Your whole day will change. And that's how it happens. That's how it begins. See that little sparkle of magic today, and the rest of your day will be magical. And that is the beauty of the moment. So thank you for being with me. I have a client in 15 minutes, so I have to go. I love you all. I will be back again tomorrow. I think I have more time tomorrow, so I'll be in a lot longer. I'll share some more cards with you guys. So have a beautiful day and find the magic. See the magic. Take this very moment. Take a deep breath. Feel the peace. Feel the love. And then let that little sparkles. Let yourself find the little sparkles in life today. Mwah. Love you all. Bye-bye.